revealed how my daughter's hurtful words sparked an incredible transformation in just 30 days. Elizabeth sat at her kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. The remnants of last night's argument with her daughter, Mia, clung to the air like stale smoke. "You're just a nurse, Mom. You've given up everything for a job that doesn't even matter," Mia had shouted, her frustration turning to bitter daggers. Each word had sliced through Elizabeth's heart, unearthing long-buried dreams, the ambitious young woman she once was, the writer she could have become. Instead, here she was, a single mother, devoted to a profession that rarely recognized her sacrifices or brilliance. With the weight of those words echoing in her mind, Elizabeth felt a surge of desperation. Was that truly how her daughter saw her? After years spent caring for others, had she lost sight of herself? The familiar tension settled in her chest, tightening with every errant thought. Doubt crept in like cold air beneath a door. Maybe Mia was right. What kind of a role model was she, sacrificing her own dreams to ensure Mia had a secure, stable life? But stability felt hollow when dreams went unfulfilled. She hesitated, glancing at the newspaper stuffed under a stack of bills. An article about a local community college's creative writing course caught her eye. The very idea sent a flicker of excitement through her long-forgotten spark. But guilt surged in its wake. Could she justify dedicating time and money to a passion that felt so self-indulgent? Her mind raced with the implications of this choice. Each shift at the hospital, each moment spent giving care, felt like a laissez-faire approach to nurturing her own potential. What if it wasn't just Mia she disappointed? What if it was herself? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Determined to reclaim a piece of her identity, Elizabeth enrolled in the course despite the gnawing feeling of inadequacy. The first class felt overwhelming. The other students were filled with stories, brimming with experience. Elizabeth's hands trembled slightly as she fumbled with her notes, feeling the heavy weight of doubt pin her to the chair. How could she possibly compete? She was just a nurse, a caretaker, not a storyteller. An unexpected wave of self-doubt washed over her. As she navigated this new world while balancing hospital shifts and motherhood, the urge to retreat into her old routine gripped her, yet the artist within her clawed to be set free. Tension flooded her heart, and a sense of urgency compelled her to continue, to push through, to prove not only to Mia but also to herself that she was more than what her daughter had painted her as. As the month progressed, Elizabeth found herself entrenched in a battle against the relentless self-criticism that sought to drown her spirit. Every written word felt tortured, laden with memories of failure. Each assignment illuminated her darkest fears, the fear that Mia was right, guilt gnawing at her decision, echoing her daughter's sentiments. Would this bridge between them hold strong in the current of their conflicts, or would it shatter under the weight of their misunderstandings? With the public reading fast approaching, Elizabeth's imagination tangled with her anxiety, fueling her dread. Faced with her own fragility, she questioned if she would ever find the courage to confront Mia with these truths, or if the painful fissure between them would remain unbridgeable. As she prepared to step into the spotlight, uncertainty loomed larger than her writing, leaving her breathless. Could this moment finally change everything? The sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating Elizabeth's cluttered table as she stared at her notebook. Lines of text filled the pages, scribbled thoughts and half-formed ideas that felt as fragile as her confidence. The approaching public reading lurked like a specter, haunting her every moment. What if she collapsed under the pressure? What if her words fell flat, exposing every insecurity she had? She forced herself to breathe deeply, attempting to silence the storm brewing inside her. In the days following Mia's hurtful comment, Elizabeth found solace in the rhythm of writing. Each morning, she would wake early, the house quiet except for the soft scratching of her pen against the page. Something inside her had shifted. The act of committing her thoughts to paper was not just about storytelling, it had evolved into a lifeline. Yet, even as the words flowed, self-doubt tainted her efforts. She could hear Mia's voice, throwing her insecurities into stark relief. "You're just a nurse." Tear-streaked and exhausted, Elizabeth clutched the notebook against her chest, seeking comfort. Perhaps the act of writing an intimate peek into her psyche was her real solace. To transform her tension into narrative, to pour out her heart, felt like stepping back into herself, reconnecting with the woman who once had dreams larger than those of stability and routine. But this was not merely about her anymore. She realized it involved Mia, too, and how she envisioned the person her mother could be. As days turned into nights, Elizabeth began sharing drafts with her writing group. She braced herself for the critique's anxiety, curling her fingers into fists. With each piece that was read aloud, she felt herself shrink, her self-worth dangling on the edge of a knife. Yet, the feedback that resonated often stirred flickers of hope. "You have a voice," one classmate said, nodding encouragingly. For the first time in years, Elizabeth began to see threads of connection between her nursing duties and her writing. Both were about caring, healing, offering comfort in different forms. Sifting through these realizations, Elizabeth found a crucial fight within her own mind. She understood now that she was not defined solely by her nurturing profession. She carried stories like lifeblood within her, tales waiting to be told. This revelation ignited a blaze of determination, buttressing her resolve to face the public reading not with dread, but with a newfound belief in her worth. The day of the reading arrived with its own siren song of nerves and anticipation. Elizabeth dressed carefully, choosing something comfortable yet bold. In the mirror, she rehearsed her speech, words swelling in her chest, demanding to be heard. The room buzzed with energy. Her classmates shared stories of laughter and sorrow, each piece unfolding like petals in a vibrant garden. Then came her turn. Her heart raced as she stepped onto the small stage, the spotlight washing over her. She scanned the audience, spotting familiar faces, and her thoughts drifted to Mia. This was not merely about showcasing her writing, it was a testament to her struggle and growth. Taking a deep breath, she began. Each word flowed with intensity, vulnerability pouring from her. As she shared her stories of doubt alongside her triumphs, she felt the air shift, the tension among the listeners transforming into something palpable. They were with her, drawn into her journey. When she finished, the applause erupted, echoing around her like a warm embrace. It felt liberating, like shedding a heavy coat she never realized she wore. Joy surged through her, a celestial burst of confidence that made even the darkest shadows retreat. As Elizabeth stepped off the stage, her heart still thumping with the remnants of adrenaline, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a message from Mia, a simple "I heard you tonight. Can we talk?" The words unsettled her, a ripple of uncertainty flooding back. Was this finally the moment to bridge the chasm between them, or would it deepen the divide in the quiet? Aftermath of her public reading, Elizabeth faced a new crossroads. She had unveiled a piece of herself, but would her daughter accept this new reality? The possibility of confronting Mia loomed ahead, the fear of misunderstanding pressing against her as they embarked on this challenging conversation. How would she express the woman she was becoming, and would it finally be enough to mend what had felt irrevocably broken? The morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating the chaotic remnants of Elizabeth's whirlwind of emotions. The excitement of her reading still thrummed within her, yet the weight of Mia's message hung heavily in the air. She stared at her phone, the words flickering in her mind like a faulty light bulb. "Can we talk?" The phrase echoed, giving rise to a tumult of questions. What did Mia mean? Did she hear the vulnerability in her words? As a nurse, Elizabeth had learned to shape her thoughts delicately around her patients, but this was different. With Mia, she felt exposed and vulnerable in a way that rendered her familiar coping mechanisms nearly useless. How could she express the profound journey she had embarked upon without sounding defensive or overly proud? Over breakfast, the toast sat untouched. The The words from her reading were still fresh, yet simultaneously, there was a gnawing anxiety about discussing her newfound confidence with Mia. What if this conversation did not go as she hoped? She envisioned them sitting opposite one another, a chasm built of misunderstandings stretching between them. She decided to take a walk to clear her head. The rhythmic crunch of leaves underfoot grounded her as she focused on her breathing. Nature's simplicity resonated with her turbulent heart. With every step, she found fragments of strength she hadn't acknowledged before. Her writing, her ability to convey emotion, it was all part of who she was. She no longer wanted to shy away from that identity. She needed to embrace it. Reaching the local park, Elizabeth found a bench and sat, allowing the familiar chaos of her thoughts to settle. She recalled her writing classmates' encouragement, their belief in her voice. Maybe she needed to see the conversation with Mia as another chance to tell her story, one that would illuminate her growth, rather than serve as a source of fear or conflict. After some time, her mind began to crystallize ideas about how to approach Mia. She drafted a mental script, imagining the moment they would meet. "I know you might not understand, but I've realized something important about myself," she rehearsed inwardly. "I am more than my role. I have stories to share, and I want to share them with you." Prepared and resolute, Elizabeth returned home, gripping her phone tightly. But self-doubt crept back in. What if Mia had not been ready to see this new facet of her mother? Would she understand the struggle behind the triumph? As she opened a blank document on her laptop, the urge to procrastinate battled with her determination. She began typing furiously, crafting a letter she might give Mia. With each keystroke, she confronted the doubts that reared their heads. Yes, she was a nurse. Yes, she lived a life of stability. But she was also a storyteller, a woman filled with dreams that clawed to be expressed. When her fingers finally stilled, Elizabeth leaned back, reading her words aloud. They resonated powerfully, articulating her sense of self that she had long buried. Could she give this letter to Mia? Would it be a bridge or a barrier? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, bathing her surroundings in shades of orange, Elizabeth felt the urgency mounting. It was time to take that leap of faith, to brave the conversation that could either solidify their relationship or fracture it further. The inner voice of doubt nodded her again, but this time she resolved to fight it. With a deep breath, Elizabeth summoned her courage. She typed Mia a reply, a simple message. "Yes, I'd like that. Let us meet." With that, the text sent, it felt like the first step into uncharted territory, a step toward potential reconciliation or further exploration of their stunted relationship. Would Mia be receptive to this new version of Elizabeth? There was no way to know for sure, but this was a chapter of her life she demanded to be written. And as the screen faded to black, another weight shifted within her. This would be a conversation that defined them both, the echoes of their past slipping silently away as the future unfolded. The moment of truth approached, and uncertainty loomed larger than ever. Would Elizabeth find the courage to redefine their relationship, or would old wounds and resentment cast shadows long enough to shatter both their identities? The sun rose the next morning, a golden hue spilling across the kitchen as Elizabeth moved with measured determination. Despite the usual rhythm of her day, her mind buzzed with anticipation about meeting Mia later. She prepared her coffee methodically, the steam curling up like her tangled thoughts. What would this conversation reveal? In the quiet hum of the morning, she wondered what Mia would say. Would she open up, or would the same old patterns replay? The image of their past conversations weighed heavily on her spirit. It was suffocating, the way they would circle around their feelings rather than diving into the heart of the matter. Elizabeth felt the tether of her old self, the cautious, emotionally reserved mother, weaken a shift both terrifying and exhilarating. She glanced at her phone again, heart pounding as she thought about the letter. With every realization of her own strength, the shadows of fear dissipated. She decided to revisit the words she decrafted. As she read through them once more, a sense of empowerment surged within her. This wasn't simply about a conversation, it was about asserting her identity, claiming her voice that had been too often silenced by self-doubt. After her morning routine, Elizabeth parked herself at her writing desk. She opened the window wider, allowing the crisp air to fill the room. Inspiration thrummed through her veins. The unspoken words between her and Mia clashed in a melody of anticipation and unease. She couldn't just prepare for the conversation with her daughter as if it were another shift at the hospital. This time, she needed to visualize her outcome with confidence. Who am I when I strip away everyone else's expectations? Elizabeth asked herself, the question floating around her mind like a song melody that refused to fade. Her rehearsed responses morphed into authentic explorations of her feelings. She began writing not just a letter, but a manifesto of sorts, a declaration of the woman she had become through her tumultuous journey. As she crafted her manifesto, she infused it with the lessons learned along the way. Each line radiated a burgeoning sense of self, the recognition of her passions alongside her profession. The connection between nursing and writing, both acts of care, became a tapestry she could thread into her dialogue with Mia. There was vulnerability in this unveiling, and yet she felt strong. Elizabeth made a conscious decision to face whatever uncertainties came, to allow her daughter's feelings to merge with her own. Grabbing a crisp sheet of paper, she filled it with facts, the struggles, the triumphs, the moments of doubt, and the joys of storytelling. Each word a stitch holding her evolving identity together. Yet, even as she envisioned the power in her words, a flicker of apprehension sparked. What if Mia rejected this narrative? What if her vulnerability was met with dismissiveness, reminiscent of their past communication failures? The image of their past misunderstandings flooded in harsh words, defensive banter, the stinging silence that followed. Elizabeth pushed the doubt aside, determined to share this new understanding. This time she understood it wasn't just about being a mother, it was about inviting Mia into her world as equals, vulnerable yet strong. As she gathered her notes, Elizabeth felt invigorated yet grounded. This was not merely about an apology or a plea for understanding, it was about a powerful exchange of truths, a demonstration of her growth and resilience. The clock ticked steadily, and soon it would be time to meet Mia. As she took one last look at her notes, the air hummed with tension and echo of impending revelation. With each step toward the cafe, Elizabeth recognized that regardless of the outcome, she had already transformed. She had embraced her identity, melding nurse and storyteller, reshaping her life narrative not only for herself but for Mia too. As she reached the entrance, Elizabeth took a moment to center herself. Would this be an occasion of revelation or an unexpected fallout? The uncertainty lingered. Like the aroma of coffee pervading the cafe, rich and promising yet layered with complexity. Just as she pushed the door open, a part of her asked was she ready to face not just Mia but the reflections of herself revealed by their conversation? Each question hung in the air like suspended breath, creating the thrilling anticipation of connection or fracture. What awaited inside? Would it lead to healing or encounter fresh wounds? Elizabeth recognized the importance of this moment. One way or another, it would cement her evolving identity. Inside the cafe, the warmth wrapped around Elizabeth like a cozy blanket, contrasting sharply with the chill of her own apprehension. The clatter of cups and low murmur of conversation set the scene, yet her focus narrowed inward, honing in on her own racing heart. As she scanned the room, spotting Mia at a corner table, a whirlwind of emotions surged within her. This was not merely a reunion. This was her chance to redefine their relationship. Mia looked up, her brows slightly furrowed as she caught sight of her mother. There was a fleeting moment of recognition that passed between them, both mothers and daughters in that instant, yet so much more complex. Elizabeth felt the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air, thick and tangible. Would Mia see her as the woman she was becoming, or would she remain fixed in the lens of childhood memories and past grievances? As Elizabeth approached, each step felt like a declaration of her newfound resolve, a physical manifestation of the manifesto she'd written. The transformation from the cautious mother seeking approval to a confident woman claiming her space brought an electrifying clarity to her vision. This was her opportunity to express who she truly was, a symphony of nurse and storyteller, woven together through experience. "Hi, Mom," Mia said, her voice softer than Elizabeth had anticipated. There was a hint of wariness in her tone, as if she were waiting for the familiar script of blame and distance to unfold. "Hi, Mia." Elizabeth sat down across from her, noting the way her daughter fidgeted with the edge of her napkin. A familiar urge to soothe the tension rose within her, but she resisted it. She didn't want to default to the caretaker role. This was about building a bridge between two evolving selves. "Thanks for meeting me," Elizabeth began, trying to assess the landscape of Mia's expression. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us and what our conversations have looked like over the years." Mia's guard went up slightly. "Yeah? Like how we always end up fighting." Elizabeth took a deep breath, steeling herself against the sting of Mia's words. It was a valid point, but the defensiveness of a bygone era felt inadequate for this moment. "I'd like to change that, actually. I want to be open. And I'd love for us to be honest with each other." Mia's eyes narrowed, skepticism etched across her features. "What does that even mean, Mom? You're the one who has always been careful about what you say." There it was, the mirror held up to Elizabeth's past self, a reminder of the hesitations that had shaped their communication. Instead of retreating, she leaned into the discomfort. "I know, but I don't want to hide anymore. I've been finding my voice, and I want you to know that even when I faltered, it's always out of love for you." Mia shifted again. "Love? You mean it didn't feel like love when you made decisions without asking me what I wanted?" Elizabeth's heart sank at the raw authenticity in those words. Here was the confrontation she had feared, yet needed. "You're right. It didn't feel loving, and I regret that. I thought I was protecting you, but in the process, I forgot to include you in my choices." Silence enveloped them, the kind that felt both suffocating and liberating. Elizabeth realized she had shifted from simply being a mother to also becoming a listener, ready to embrace Mia's responses as part of their healing. Mia finally spoke, her voice low. "It just feels like you changed so much after Dad died. Like you were trying to fix everything by working more and being busy. But I wanted you to be here with me, really here." Each word cut through Elizabeth, urging her to confront the emotional gaps left wide open by grief. "I thought keeping busy was what we both needed to survive, but it left us disconnected." The layers of past resentment began to peel away as Mia's expression softened. "I just want to feel like I matter too. Not just as your daughter, but as myself." Elizabeth felt a rush of pride mixed with vulnerability. This was the raw truth they needed to share. Would she be courageous enough to express her aspirations for them, not just as mother and daughter, but as individuals reclaiming their stories? A small spark ignited within her. She grabbed her notes, exposing the handwritten manifesto that contained her reflections and emotional calculus. "I want to create a space for you where we can both share, and not just once. I'm ready to build something better together without any shields." Yet as her heart raced with optimism, a troubling thought intruded. Would Mia accept this invitation to be seen as an equal, or would the walls she had built around herself remain insurmountable? With her heart pounding, Elizabeth watched for Mia's reaction, hope colliding with fear. Would this moment lead to a breakthrough or a reaffirmation of the distance that had long existed between them? The cafe buzzed around them, but within their small world, uncertainty loomed. Would they emerge from the wreckage of the past with new connections, or find themselves utterly unchanged yet again? Mia's silence stretched, nodding Elizabeth's insides in a way that felt all too familiar. Every heartbeat echoed with the weight of anticipation. Had she truly unlocked a door that had long been closed? Or would the old scripts drown her new intentions? "Mia, I know I've made mistakes," Elizabeth continued, swallowing the lump in her throat. "But I want to learn. I want us to build something new. I've been thinking about my role not just as your mother, but as your confidant." Mia finally moved, her eyes darting to the window, capturing the fleeting moments of passers-by outside. Elizabeth could see her mind working through the tangled threads of their relationship, the pain stitched with longing for understanding. "I appreciate that, Mom, but it still feels fragile," Mia said, her voice steady but faintly trembling. "You can't just pretend everything will be okay after one meeting." Elizabeth nodded, feeling the truth in Mia's words reverberate through her. Healing was not merely a conversation, but a commitment. "You're right. It's going to take work. I'm willing to put in the effort. I started by writing out what I want our relationship to look like. I hope it can act like a guide. What does that even mean? Mia responded, skepticism creeping back into her tone. You've always written things down. It's like you're hiding behind the pen, not facing what's really going on. That hit harder than Elizabeth anticipated. The metaphor of hiding behind her words was grimly accurate. I've used writing as a shield, I know that. But I also believe it can be a tool for us. If you're willing to dive in with me, we can share what those words mean at a deeper level. Mia shifted her gaze back to her mother, the challenge sparking in her eyes alongside curiosity. You mean, share your guides with me? The ones where you figured out how to deal with grief? Yes, Elizabeth affirmed with conviction. And I want your perspective in return. What are your guides? What have you been through since everything changed? The question hung in the air, reverberating off the walls of their past. Would Mia finally open up, shedding the burden she had been shouldering alone? Elizabeth felt the urgency. This moment required both of them to brave vulnerability. Fine, Mia relented, though her resistance still hovered. But just so you know, it's not going to be easy. I can't promise, neither can I, Elizabeth interrupted, leaning in, a spark of excitement igniting within her. But let us promise to stick to honesty. I want to hear you, and I want you to hear me. Mia exhaled slowly, her shoulders sagging slightly under the weight of anticipation. Okay, let us give it a shot. But if I open up and you try to fix everything again, I'm done. There it was, the challenge Elizabeth anticipated but also dreaded. Mia was holding the boundary firmly, and a sense of pride bubbled within her. What if this was a sign of development rather than a threat? I accept that, Elizabeth replied firmly. You deserve to express yourself without me jumping in as the fixer. Just then, the cafe door swung open, a gust of cold air rushing in, interrupting their moment. Elizabeth shivered, feeling the chill seep back into her skin, a stark reminder of how far they both had to go. Yet, she welcomed the sensation, a call to stand firm in this budding connection. Mia, she ventured, could we start right now? What is something you feel has been left unsaid between us? The question reverberated in the air, nudging against the silence once more. This was not merely a turning point, it was an invitation, rife with the potential for growth, vulnerability, and raw truth. Mia hesitated, her eyes flitting around as if searching for a safe harbor before the impending storm. I don't even know where to start. As Elizabeth smiled gently, an unexpected excitement coursed through her. This was it, breaking down barriers, revealing layers, and discovering rediscovered truths. Would they finally embark on this intricate journey of honesty, or would old habits swiftly reclaim their voices? The buzz of the cafe faded, and a hush fell over them as they faced a pivotal threshold. What revelations lay just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to emerge? But a single inhalation and a shared glance suggested they were on the cusp of something monumental, or perhaps on the brink of unraveling entirely. Mia glanced away, her breath catching in her throat, as if the weight of unspoken words threatened to tangle within her. Elizabeth perceived the storm brewing in her daughter's eyes, but also felt the gentle push toward something more profound. Could this moment of vulnerability carve a path toward their healing? Mia, just take your time, Elizabeth encouraged, her voice low and steady. Mia bit her lip, wrestling with thoughts that appeared to ebb and flow just beneath the surface. Do you really want to know? She finally asked, the tremor in her voice betraying a flicker of unguarded emotion. Absolutely, Elizabeth replied, her determination mingling with anxiety. This was uncharted territory. The gravity of their situation pressed against her like an immense weight. I'm here to listen, not to fix or judge. Mia folded her arms defensively yet glanced back toward Elizabeth, a silent plea glimmering in her eyes. It's just I feel like you never really saw me. It's like you were so entrenched in your own grief that you forgot I was hurting too. The sting of Mia's words landed hard, igniting a painful recognition within Elizabeth. It was true. Somewhere along the way, she had unwittingly centered her own sorrow, blind to the tempest brewing in her daughter's heart. Elizabeth braced herself. This was not just about Mia's pain, but about how it mirrored her own failures as a mother. I didn't know how to be there for you. My grief consumed me, Elizabeth confessed. That's the point, Mia countered sharply. You didn't try. You acted like you were the only one who lost something when I lost you too. The truth in Mia's words struck with unyielding force. Elizabeth felt each syllable weighing heavily, forming an almost tangible barrier that had driven them apart. The pit of her stomach churned as revelation shattered old defenses, exposing her to raw self-examination. Had she truly been so absorbed that she had allowed their bond to fray? Sometimes I need you to just be present, Mia continued, unfurling her thoughts like a delicate flower. Not with words or plans, but just being there, listening. Not fixing, just listening. Elizabeth nodded, her heart swelling with remorse and newfound resolve. I understand that now. I can see how my actions pushed you away. I want to change that. As she spoke, a flicker of hope ignited within her. This realization could mark the beginning of her growth both as a mother and as a person. Mia softened, the tension in her shoulders releasing slightly as if the walls built to protect her from hurt were yielding to a new openness. It's hard to forget, you know? I can only imagine, Elizabeth affirmed, her voice steady, allowing space for her daughter's words to settle. And I can't erase the past, but I want to rebuild. I want to be someone you can rely on. Mia's eyes revealed vulnerability mingled with skepticism. You say that now, but I need to see it. Actions speak louder than words, and I can't accept another false promise. Then don't accept it, Elizabeth replied, her conviction fortifying her. Hold me accountable. I won't shy away from the challenge. I need this as much as you do. Silence enveloped them, thick with the weight of understanding and renewed intention. Each second stretched, vibrating with the potential of what lay ahead. Elizabeth felt her heart beat fiercely, echoing with the possibilities of transformation. Mia, how can I support you better moving forward? She asked, seeking clarity. Mia pondered for a moment, her eyes reflecting a blend of hope and caution. I guess just making an effort to know what I want to learning about me now rather than the past. This was new, a collective journey in which they could both grow. Let us make it a point to share what we want out of this. I can set aside writing for a moment while we explore each other's thoughts. Elizabeth felt the shift, as if stepping from shadows into the light. Mia tilted her head, a flicker of interest igniting. Okay, but it's going to require both of us to be honest with ourselves and with each other. The real stuff, not just surface level. Agreed, Elizabeth responded, buoyed by the commitment. Let us start there. What does it mean to be honest between us? As Mia began to articulate her needs, Elizabeth felt the echoes of hope surge within her. They stood on the precipice of a new future, the foundations of a relationship built not on past missteps, but on mutual understanding and accountability. Yet deep down, a question lingered. Would they be able to sustain this level of honesty through the inevitable storms ahead? The cafe buzzed back to life around them, unaware of the momentous awakening occurring within. And for the first time in a long while, Elizabeth felt a mixture of fear and excitement for the journey that lay before them. What revelations and conflicts awaited as they knitted together the worn threads of trust? The weight of unsaid words and new commitments lingered in the air as Elizabeth left the cafe, a steely resolve growing within her. She felt a newfound clarity, a sense of urgency pressing her to adapt to this unexpected juncture in her life, one that demanded introspection and courage. As she stepped outside, the crisp wind swept across her face, invigorating her senses. It felt like a reset, a chance to transform the regrets of the past into an avenue for growth. Elizabeth had always thought she was defined by her career as a writer, yet here she realized that her true narrative was woven through the relationship with her daughter. Walking down the busy street, she recognized an unsettling truth. Her reluctance to face her vulnerabilities had also stunted her professional aspirations. The stories she penned were riddled with resistance, mirroring her struggle to confront genuine emotion. What good was a narrative that lacked authenticity? It dawned on her that meaningful connections, both personal and professional, formed through transparency and accountability. Elizabeth resolved to embrace this acknowledgement. She would focus on reopening her heart, allowing it to guide her writing. So much of her work had been an echo of external pressures, but now she needed to write for herself, exploring her inner narrative. Perhaps she couldn't change the past, but she could compose a new chapter, one filled with heart and honesty. That night, in her small apartment, she sat down at her desk, cluttered with crumpled notes and half-finished manuscripts. She could feel the familiar pull of doubt threatening to close her off once again, but she fought against it. Instead of following her usual routine of meticulously orchestrating every detail, she opened a blank document and let her fingers dance across the keyboard freely. Words flowed out like a stream, fragmented memories of her childhood with Mia, reflections of her own youthful aspirations, and the pangs of losses that knitted them together. But as she typed, an unfamiliar sensation gripped her, an unsettling fusion of fear and hope. Would this raw honesty be accepted? Would it strengthen her bond with Mia, or would it instead expose fragments too painful to touch? The fear of rejection loomed over her, yet the allure of possibility remained potent. She paused to reflect on the deeper ramifications of this exercise. It wasn't merely about reconciling with Mia, it was about self-discovery and acceptance. The moment she allowed herself to be truly seen in her writing, perhaps it would act as a catalyst for real change in both their lives. Days turned into weeks of sustained reflection and writing, and Elizabeth found herself more distracted by her thoughts than the mundane aspects of life. Each day they committed to being more honest with each other, Mia sharing her desires, and Elizabeth her own limitations. They were forging a path neither had anticipated but desperately needed. Yet, amid the progress, an unexpected confrontation arose. A critical piece of Elizabeth's past resurfaced when she unexpectedly crossed paths with an old colleague, one who had witnessed her descent into grief. His probing questions about her writing and her relationship with Mia served as a reminder of her failures. Elizabeth's heart raced, processing the confrontation while maintaining a brave exterior. He had teased out her ghostly reluctance, resurrecting the discontent she thought she was overcoming. "Why aren't you writing about what matters?" he asked, with a hint of disdain, his voice echoing in her mind even after they parted ways. The jolt ignited a storm of self-doubt, but it also catalyzed her determination. She didn't want to be judged solely by her past. She needed to confront this voice that had haunted her, the notion that she was incapable of change or growth. As the evening closed in, Elizabeth sat in front of her growing body of work, feeling a pivotal shift inside her. What if she stopped seeing herself as the victim of her story and instead embraced the protagonist who was capable of personal change? She grasped a sense of empowerment, fueled by the knowledge that her narratives could reflect the evolution not only of herself, but also who she wanted to become. The next morning, armed with fresh resolve, Elizabeth approached Mia for their weekly meeting. "Let us write down our intentions, our fears, and our hopes," she suggested. "We'll set goals, both for our relationship and for my writing." Mia's brow furrowed, apprehension flickering across her face. "What if we don't like what we see?" "That's the point," Elizabeth replied, a mix of fear and courage surging within her. "What if we discover something beautiful instead?" As they began their exercise, the air thick with potential and the weight of the unknown, Elizabeth sensed a vast horizon awaiting them. But lingering at the edges of her thoughts was the question that cut deep. Could she truly unravel the confines of her past while learning to trust and connect with her daughter? Would they emerge from this experimentation strengthened or even more vulnerable than before? The answer felt just out of reach, leaving Elizabeth in a state of uncertainty as they moved forward. The stakes had never been higher. The morning sun filtered through the blinds, casting a warm glow in the small apartment that felt both a sanctuary and a battleground for Elizabeth. Each day had become an exercise in vulnerability, a balance between the excitement of new beginnings and the anxiety of revealing deeper truths. As she and Mia prepared for their writing intentions exercise, the air buzzed with unspoken apprehensions, each word infused with weight. Sitting across from her daughter, Elizabeth noticed the unease etched on Mia's face. "Let us start with the intentions," she suggested, her own voice wavering slightly. There was a part of her that still wanted to cling to the familiar steadiness of their previous habits, Yet how could she advocate for honesty if she herself was afraid to take the plunge? Mia glanced at her notebook, fiddling with the pen, her breathing shallow. I want to express myself better to not feel so unseen. The admission hung heavy in the air. Elizabeth felt a pang of empathy for her daughter. Unseen. That word sliced through them both. Could Mia's feelings echo her own fears? Then let us make that our focus. Elizabeth reached for her own notebook, flipping it open to a clean page. I want to write honestly about our relationship. To break down these barriers we've both been clinging to. As they began to write, the silence wrapped around them like a protective cocoon. Elizabeth's thoughts swirled, and she fought against the urge to control the narrative. What if the words that emerged weren't pretty? Would they only draw them apart further? The specter of her confrontation with her colleague, his disdain, still reverberating in her mind, pushed her forward. She could not allow those doubt-laden perceptions to dictate her path any longer. Minutes passed, filled with the sound of scratching pens and the tension of honesty spilling onto the pages. Elizabeth felt unmoored, yet, paradoxically, she found strength in those very feelings. She chose to embrace the uncertainty, allowing them to shape her writing and her relationship with Mia. After a time, Elizabeth broke the silence. What do you want to articulate about being unseen? Her voice was tentative but steady, her resolve solidifying like a newly sculpted figure in clay. Mia lifted her gaze, hesitating momentarily as emotions flickered in her eyes. I want you to know that when you're absorbed in your writing or your own thoughts, I feel like I don't matter. Her vulnerability struck Elizabeth like a physical blow, the truth raw and sharp. The confession ignited an internal confrontation within her, a reminder of all the moments she hadn't fully engaged in their relationship, lost in her own world of creation and grief. I'm sorry for that, Elizabeth said quietly, the sincerity in her heart reflecting in her voice. I never meant to make you feel that way. I was just trapped in my own struggles. This was new territory. It felt both dangerous and liberating. Would their shared revelations strengthen their bond or further complicate their relationship? As Mia nodded, Elizabeth saw the cracks begin to form in the emotional barriers between them. The struggle for clarity intertwined their fates, and she recognized that revealing her vulnerabilities was a necessary step forward. Let us keep this dialogue open, Elizabeth proposed, a touch of excitement creeping in. Our writing can be a way to find a shared voice together. She was beginning to realize that this journey was not just about her healing process or her artistic aspirations. It was about creating space for Mia, for their relationship to flourish within the truth they were unearthing. They continued writing. And with each stroke of the pen, Elizabeth was struck by the emerging mosaic of their combined truths, both delicate and resilient. As the pages filled, she experienced a strange exhilaration. Each word was not merely a reflection of the past, but a pathway leading to a transformed self, one that beckoned to confront the stories shaping them both. But just as she began to feel hopeful, a wave of anxiety washed over her. What would become of their newfound commitments? Would they remain steadfast, or might their resolve crumble as real-life pressures emerged? As they began to share their written intentions, Mia looked up, brow furrowed again, the weight of their journey settling on her shoulders. What if it's too late for us to change? She asked, a tinge of fear threading through her voice. The question echoed ominously in Elizabeth's mind. She suddenly faced another dilemma, how to respond while confronting her own fears. This moment felt critical, their willingness to risk honesty set against the potential for backlash. The stakes had never felt so daunting, nor the possibilities so enticing. Could they truly reshape their destinies, or would they remain ensnared in the past, forever battling against the unseen forces that had long defined them? The answer loomed tantalizingly close, yet felt just out of reach, leaving Elizabeth teetering on the precipice of transformation. The sun rose again, spilling light into Elizabeth's home, illuminating the corner where she often found herself lost in thought or buried in her writing. The tranquility of morning had shifted, anticipation tinged the air as today marked a definitive turn in her life, a shared journey with Mia, filled with potential and honesty. In recent weeks, the dialogue between mother and daughter had deepened. Words exchanged in their writing sessions revealed not only frustrations, but also dreams long suppressed. In those moments, Elizabeth saw Mia's true self emerging, filled with passion and complexity, much like the characters she crafted in her stories. With each shared writing session, they unraveled their unique narratives and acknowledged the fears that had kept them apart, yet the shadow of their recent conversation loomed large over her. Elizabeth had laid bare her vulnerabilities, risking rejection, but simultaneously found strength in her resolve to nurture a stronger connection with Mia. They had committed to face this truth together, each step forward requiring them to invest time and trust, a risk she was willing to take. Yet, was she truly ready to embrace whatever came next? Today felt monumental, for she had invited Mia to a special location that held both nostalgia and hope, the local library where she used to dream of becoming a writer. It was symbolic and a stepping stone, not only to bridge their past, but also to delve into a collaborative future. She envisioned them drafting a new narrative together, one filled with reconciliation, learning, and vibrant experiences. As Elizabeth arrived, she noticed the library's facade standing tall, unchanged yet filled with the energetic pulse of community life around it. Trepidation mixed with excitement made her heart race as she spotted Mia from across the room, scanning the shelves with a curiosity that reminded her of her own youthful days. "Hi, Mom," Mia said, her eyes shining with uncertainty and anticipation. Elizabeth returned the gaze, fully aware of the weight of the moment. In this space, they'd forged something new, the synthesis of their journeys. "Let us find a cozy spot," Elizabeth suggested, a smile creeping across her face, eager to ease the tension. They settled at a table that overlooked the reading room, the scent of paper and ink wrapping around them like a warm embrace. With notebooks and pens ready, Elizabeth initiated their writing exercise, excitingly fostering the promise of an authentic conversation. "If we're going to express ourselves, let us commit to being open-hearted," Elizabeth said, steadying her voice to match her intent. "What if we each write a letter addressing our fears and hopes for our relationship? No judgment, just absolute honesty." Mia appeared contemplative as she nodded. "Like a partnership in storytelling?" "Exactly. A narrative of us. You can share what you hope to see from me as your mother, and I can do the same." They wrote, surrounded by the echoes of people engrossed in their books and creativity. Elizabeth felt a rush of gratitude. This moment wasn't merely about revealing truths, but creating a safe space to cultivate understanding. The apprehensive weight that had once occupied her mind now transformed into a hopeful dialogue unfolding before her. As they shared their letters, Elizabeth was met with a profound sense of connection, their stories entwined. "I want you to support me in finding who I am, not just the daughter," Mia began, her feisty determination bubbling to the surface. "I sometimes feel pressured to fit into a mold that you've helped create. But at the same time, I want to respect where you are too." Elizabeth's heart swelled. Her daughter was articulating feelings she had harbored for so long, and it reminded her of the importance of balance in their roles. "I truly understand. I've lived so much of my life for others, putting aside my own dreams. I only want you to feel free to explore yours." Mia looked at her, eyes wide with comprehension. "I don't ever want you to hide who you are. I want you to see me fully." In that exchange, Elizabeth realized the power of recognition, of embracing and celebrating each other's identities. It had taken acceptance of their imperfections, but at the core, it was the blatant truth that connected them. They dismantled barriers built of misunderstanding and nurtured a foundation for future growth. In a moment of clarity, Elizabeth decided to share her recently completed story, one derived from her journey of transformation. This would not just be a reading, but their first collaborative experience, an essential step in threading their narratives together. "I've written a piece for you. It reflects the stories we've shared, and if you'd like, I would be honored if you read it along with me," she said with earnestness. As Mia agreed, they transitioned into storytelling, two empowered voices blending seamlessly into a shared rhythm. Laughter, tears, and moments of vulnerability intertwined in the air, proving they could face whatever came next together. By the end, They sat in the library's warmth, grateful for the collective experience. Elizabeth felt lighter, filled with a solid confidence now recognizable. Mia's approval reflected in her twinkling eyes, acknowledging Elizabeth as a woman who not only supported her daughter, but had also found herself again. Today marked a new beginning, the essence of their commitment blending into something more meaningful than either could have imagined. In these moments, Elizabeth learned that fulfillment came in accepting both triumph and vulnerability. As they walked out of the library into the embrace of a brilliant sunset, Elizabeth knew she had achieved what she once thought impossible, an authentic transformation reflected in the love she now radiated to the world and the evolving relationship unfolding with her daughter. This was no longer merely about fixing what had broken. It was a celebration of change, authenticity, and the beauty in allowing their beautifully flawed selves to stand side by side. If you resonate with Elizabeth's journey and believe in the power of transformation through vulnerability, you need to subscribe now to our channel to keep following exclusive emotional stories that depict growth and resilience. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for these meaningful narratives. And please, comment below with your reactions and thoughts on this transformative conclusion. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this journey of self-discovery and healing. Don't wait even one more second. Let us spread the light of personal overcoming stories together.